Hey folks, this is Vincent Adelie with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to share our favorite classes with you folks. Now, some of you had asked me for a tier list, like a list of characters that are better than the rest. Unfortunately, I can't provide that simply because, well, everyone has their own different play styles, they have their own different preferences. Some like to cheese and kite, others like to go in and just start smacking people with hammers. So I can't tell you what the best character is. All I can give you are my opinions on what I think are fun to play, or at least what I think is fun to play. So what you're about to see is a tier list that I made and a tier list that Ida Lee made. Now, Ida Lee is otherwise known as Pony Slay Station. Some of you may know her from Heroes of Hammerwatch 1. She has several hundred hours in that game. She's like New Game 6000. She carries people all the time. So if you know the name Pony Slay Station, that's who the other person is right here. That's my fiance.
Hi, guys.
There she is. Okay. So both of us are here together, and we each made our own little tier list. But keep in mind, this is not a list that, oh, it's S tier. That means it's the best class in the game. No, it's not what it means. It means these are the classes that we like to play the most. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Just because we have something in S tier does not mean that you should just go out and solely focus on that. Find the right class that best suits you. With that said, we're going to go ahead and move over now to the actual tier list. Now, this is my tier list that I created. And in my S tier, I put in Wizard Conjugation and Warlock Summoning. I typically never have issues running with those two. I blow up every boss. I manage to usually clear mobs pretty quickly. The Wizard's Hydra under Conjuration is very powerful. It can take out Arista in like seconds. It's amazing. The Warlock, the Fiends that you get with the Summoning, assuming that you can manage to get fireballs on them, they do a decent job at taking things down very quickly as well. Sometimes if they're melee only, they get stuck or don't know what to target. The recent patch supposedly helped with AI behavior a bit on that, but I haven't really had a chance to test the Fiends. But as far as my S tier is concerned, I think the Wizard and Warlock are my two favorite to play, with the Conjuration and Summoning specifically. And that's because I like summoning things and I like other things doing all the dirty work. I'm a big turret class. From Diablo, there's a character that you can throw down turrets and just jump around. I think it's the Demon Hunter. Mm-hmm. And I loved playing as that class. I really did. And I want to see more of that in games, honestly. And then in my A tier, I have the Sorcerer, the Fire spec, Ranger, the Beastmaster, Rogue, Poison, and Sorcerer, Lightning. Now, I've got my Sorcerer, Lightning, and Fire both on A tier. I like them for different reasons. The Lightning Sorcerer I like because the Lightning Ball, if you spec it right with the orbs, you can clear an entire hallway and like it'll just keep going, and then it bounces back and kills whatever it didn't kill the first time. That thing is super satisfying to clear hundreds of enemies in a long hallway. I love it. So, but the big caveat is, against bosses, sorcerers typically don't survive very long, at least in the later tiers, in my opinion. They have no survivability whatsoever. And the lightning ball, while it does a lot of damage, it takes a while to recharge. And it's great at clearing out mobs, but it's not sustainable DPS against a boss. So that's my issue with the Sorcerer, at least the Lightning. And the Fire is pretty much the same way. The Flame Wall is great. It's not something you can shoot down a hallway, but you can put it down around a corner and murder hundreds of enemies, assuming you've got them all grouped together. But you have to position the Flame Wall right. There's an orb upgrade you get where you can actually tell where the Flame Wall is going to go via cursor, like you're going to aim it. And that's better, because you can kind of, like the final boss, the Avatar, you can stay at range and put the flame wall right on the boss as he's doing his thing. And that's how I beat NG1, I think. Oh, NG2. I beat NG2 with the Sorcerer with the Fire Sorcerer. And then the Ranger Beastmaster, I just like the Spirit Wolves. Out of the three different Ranger styles, the Beastmaster appeals to me the most. I have the most luck with it too when it comes to leveling and killing bosses. The other two we'll talk about later, but Beastmaster I prefer over the other two. And then the Rogue Poison, is amazing because it just does so much damage, sustainable damage. The poison cloud you get on top of poison, like if you spec into poison damage, you can murder things very quickly. Assuming you've got the parry and the evasion, you're forced to be reckoned with up close. But you're still at risk because you don't have high armor typically as a rogue, so you have to rely on your parries and your evasion. So still, the rogue does output a crap ton of DPS with the poison spec, in my opinion. Moving on to B tier, we've got the warrior, the tyrant. That's my favorite of the warrior classes, the specializations, because it's weird. I can put a crossbow on the warrior, and out of all the specs, the tyrant is best suited for it because with ruthlessness, you just get an output to damage. I think it's physical, but don't quote me on it. And your crossbow pierces and it hits very hard. And actually, it does a better job of taking out bosses than with a two-handed axe or a two-handed hammer. I'll give you an example. Arista. I brought my warrior to NG2 and fought Arista with an axe, a double-handed axe, and I was spitting to win. I was staying up close, chopping the thing. Got it to half health. Died. Because I couldn't sustain myself. With the crossbow, I beat Arista. Which is really weird. I stayed at medium range and I circled Arista and I beat her. And that's totally weird to me. It's just a crossbow beating out a two-handed axe. Thematically, I would expect a two-handed weapon to do much more damage than the crossbow would, but that's just me. I still think there's some more balancing the developers have to do with this. Moving on to Paladin Divine. Out of all three Paladin specializations, I like Divine the best because it's the most tanky. Out of all three specializations for the Paladin don't provide a whole crap ton of sustainable damage. Against Arista, I'm beating it with my mace, using Blessed Strike. I can pop the Divine Pillars every now and again, and it does some damage, but there's still a cooldown with it. So all I can do is out-heal and out-armor and out-resistance most bosses with the Paladin, and because I don't have a whole lot of DPS like the others do. But Paladin is the one that lets me survive the longest out of all of them, which is why I like Divine the best. Ranger Warden. I just ran the Warden, and let me tell you, I had so much fun with this class. I went with the upgrade that gives you healing whenever you stand in the roots, whenever you activate it, the Entangle ability. And it's not very sustainable, but it is nice. There's less uptime or less downtime when you're trying to clear mobs. So I would recommend Warden as for XP runs when you know you're not going to get to the final boss and beat him. It's great for clearing out large mobs all at once with very little uptime or downtime because you're constantly healing in the process. And the other two classes don't have that as far as I'm aware, like a self-healing. There is that one mark you can put on people, and if you kill them, there's a chance you get health and mana from it, but that's always a chance. And you never know if you're going to get that upgrade or not unless you pick it. Warlock, the Chaos one, I have on B tier. There was a recent nerf, so maybe, and I played this post-patch, so it's possible that it was a lot more fun prior to the patch, but it still did work. Let me tell you, I beat Arista and the Avatar with Chaos, and all I had to do was just spam spells around the bosses and let the purple orb chain lightning thing do its thing. And it's still pretty powerful. It's like the Flame Wall, but you have to cast a bunch of spells all at once. And it's even better when you get the orb upgrade to where you start dropping them automatically so that you don't have to keep spamming spells all the time. So I like Chaos, but I still like Summoning better. That's just me, though. Under C tier, I have the Berserker, which it's okay. The Warrior Berserker, it's okay. It has a lot of versatility, in my opinion. The ability to jump, kill, keep moving. Jump, kill, keep moving. But and the rage is okay. I didn't really care for this. I still felt a little squishy with this particular class, and he's not really built for in my opinion, I don't think the crossbow would serve him well here because he's constantly leaping onto things. So it just doesn't make sense to bring a crossbow with you if you're constantly leaping into the middle of everything. So two-handed melee weapon would serve him better, I think, but that's just me. The Rogue Demolitions, I didn't play a whole lot with this one, but I like what he has. Like, the extra armor is really nice on the passive, and the grenade is great for clearing out mobs, but I really need to play more with him to get a handle on him. He doesn't play like a typical rogue. He plays like a lightly plated warrior, which he's not really meant to be that. So you're just changing his class slightly with that particular sub-spec. So it's okay. Sorcerer, the Ice Sorcerer, out of all of these Sorcerer specs, I liked Frost the least, only because Frost Nova has a limited range on it, where the other two, Flame Wall has a limited range on it as well, but Frost Nova, it's just, you have to be close range typically to get the most out of it. Jump in there, cast it, and do a bunch of damage, unless there's an orb upgrade that I didn't see. But Ice Sorcerer I like the least, but it's still good. The Frost does a lot of damage. Moving on to D tier, Warlock Souls, it's okay. I didn't really care for this. I mean, when you activate it, the Soul Vortex, a circle forms around you, and combined with the ritual where you can Soul Leech, it's not bad. It's sustainable. But out of all three, I like the other two better. The Primalist, the Warrior Primalist, it's a shame. I wanted to like this one because it is a totem thing. You drop totems down and it's a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's a turret. But against bosses, it's awful because the bosses are constantly moving around and the totems don't have a whole lot of range on them. So your main bread and butter is simply beat by someone walking away from it. And that's just... And that's it's unfortunate because, say, Tyrant has a constant buff to physical damage, so you're always getting it. Whereas with the Primalist, it's if they walk into it, yeah, sometimes. But clearing out mobs with it is fine. If you have a two-handed maul or mace, whatever, or two-handed maul, and you slam the ground and you stun people within range of the totem, that's great. That's a great way of, kiting mobs and killing them. But it's not really the warrior's playstyle. It's just thematically not right. But again, you play with how you want. Paladin, the Justice, I have a problem. At first, that was my main go-to, the Judgment ability where the hammer falls down on things repeatedly. But I noticed that if enemies are moving, it misses. Maybe it's just a graphical glitch, but I've seen the hammer smash the ground, no damage to anything. It's a waste. If enemies are moving, it's a waste. So unless they have the Judgment thing constantly, the hammer tracking enemies as they're moving, then it would be more sustainable. But in my opinion, if half of my strikes don't hit, then what's the point? The Marksman Ranger, I can't stand him. His Rain of Arrows ability is so hard to control. And yeah, in a long hallway, it does some work, but against a boss, it's finicky. When it hits the boss, it's supposed to stop and continue to rain arrows on him. And if it hits, it's good. But the cooldown is long, and you're not always going to hit with it because it's so finicky in the first place. And it takes a while. Whenever you use it, it casts, I want to say 3 or 4 feet in front of you rather than right in front of you. So you have to, be at a good distance away from your enemy before you use it. Otherwise, it's going to skip right over them. So the Marksman is very finicky, and on top of that, it's hard on my wrist. I'm constantly having to click. Because the passive is archery and that buffs bows, you have to use a bow, and you can't use a crossbow. Crossbows do not have the bow tag, which is an oversight in my opinion. So you're stuck with a bow, a two-handed bow, and you're stuck right-clicking, spamming, or holding in the button. I couldn't do the Marksman. It hurt my wrist because I had to click with the right mouse button while holding in left, just to try and out DPS things. And I didn't have wolves because I wasn't the Beastmaster, and I didn't have healing because I wasn't the Warden, so it was awful. I hate the Marksman. They need to buff. The Ranger is a DPS class. Buff the guy. I fought I fought the Avatar 3 times on NG2 with it, with each spec, and couldn't beat him. So I just couldn't beat him. He's not sustainable, and he doesn't do enough damage in the later NGs, in my opinion. It's just not good enough. Hopefully the developers balance that a bit, or give him some survivability outside of that. Finally, moving on to the last E tier, the Blades Rogue. Here's the thing. an assassin class in a game like Thief, which is an older game you kids may not know. Anywhere like Splinter Cell, if you're sneaking around killing things, an assassin is fine. It's fun. It really is. There's nothing more satisfying than going into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, going around an entire fort and like stealth killing every single guy and not alerting the entire. That's fun. This game throws hundreds of enemies at you. So sneaking up behind things and not being noticed and getting extra damage, it's just, in my opinion, it's thematically it's not right. And I don't think it would serve me well here in a huge mob. Like if you're swarmed, you have no other recourse really. So I don't like the blades. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll like it later. Transmutation Wizard, it breaks the mold because it gives you a buff to like strength and dexterity and your other stats you typically wouldn't use. And that allows you to equip things like shields and other weapons the wizard wouldn't normally have. So basically he's a battle mage at that point. Half warrior, half mage. And that's okay, but it's not my playstyle. If I'm a wizard, I want to blow stuff up at range. That's just me. So the transmutation, Paladin Radiance, again, another like high DPS, not high DPS, maybe moderate DPS spec with less survivability than Divine. And I'll leave it at that. I liked Radiance the least. And then Wizard Evocation, I tried the Meteor Shower ability. It's okay, but it focuses heavily on fire damage. And the problem with that is with fire damage, there are some enemies resistant to fire. And without any other element to help you, and with the recent debuff on magic missiles, or the nerf to magic missiles, like, you're kind of screwed. Especially on that last level with those orange orbs. Those are fire orbs, and any fire damage against them are going to be severely useless or weakened. Mm-hmm. So all fire builds are dangerous, and that goes with the sorcerer. If you've got a lightning sorcerer, a fire sorcerer, ice sorcerer, don't focus all on one element, because if you do, you're going to run into enemies toward the last level on the halls or something. Where the orbs are, there are enemies resistant to that type, and it's hard to kill them. So you gotta diversify slightly on that. So that's my tier list, and I think we'll move into Idalise now. She's been sitting here very patiently.
No, I won't go into detail because I think you hit the nail on the head for the most part. But like I'll just touch up on a few things. Like the Sorcerer Fire, I know you like its flame wall. I put it as S tier just because I loved the fire cone that you can actually start off with in the magic shop, and that pierces. So it actually provides a huge fire, like on the passive ability for the fire mastery. It says that you can actually explode things. It'll give off additional damage via explosions for all your fire skills. So if you get that cone and you constantly shoot it, which has like a super low cooldown, it can absolutely wreck things. I don't even use the flame wall. So it's pretty amazing to me. The Wizard Conjuration, you totally explained that perfectly. I like the Paladin Divine. He is so tanky with that build that it's one of my favorite builds. And then if you have the pillars just splitting up twice, not just once, but twice or 3 times, it's ridiculous getting that upgraded. The Warlock Summoning, of course, summoners are always so OP. Mind you, this tier list I made was pre-patch. So obviously all of these opinions are super subjective, so take these opinions with a grain of salt. Rogue, Poison, Toxic Cloud is absolutely amazing. In the first Heroes of Hammerwatch, the Rogue, I think it was the Rogue or the Ranger that has an insane amount of evasion. And there was one trinket where every time you evaded, you would drop a bomb. And I remember pushing NGs and always evading and just dropping like 1,000,000 bombs on the same spot, and then everything around me just instantly dies because of that. The Toxic Cloud is basically an upgraded version of that because of how wide the area is. It's absolutely nuts. And Yeah, Ranger, Beastmaster is always great. Warlock, Chaos. I have fun with that Chaos Blade. The Chaos Rift is so secondary to me, but it's just an added bonus. But that Chaos Blade is just so satisfying.
How can you upgrade it to make it even better? Like, is there an upgrade that you like, or is it just the blade itself that it's just satisfying to use?
There is an upgrade where, after you swing it, there are projectiles.
Yeah.
I never know how to pronounce that.
Projectiles.
And I like that. I think it gives like an added oomph. So you don't necessarily have to be so close to enemies. You can just kind of do it from far away, and then they'll die at the very tip.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
The lightning ball is really fun to play around with. It takes a while to get used to the charging of the ball, and it's a little bit tough on boss fights because you're so squishy as a sorcerer, but that's a really fun one to play. It cracks me up every time you wipe out enemies with that ball.
Yeah, an entire hallway just clear, gone. It just whoosh, it's just gone. Yeah, it's fun.
So the Paladin Immolation, the Sorcerer Ice, and the Warlock Soul Vortex, I feel like they are such great NG farming types of classes. And even though they're rated like differently, it's more for like the fun factor, I guess. The Immolation is a little bit hard to press. I don't know what it is, but there's like a delay. It seems like I have to press long on it, and then I'll burst into flames. But I have it high up there because it really does so much damage. It just makes the Paladin much less squishier. The Warrior Primalist, the totems are great if you take the lightning upgrade for it, where they make like little fences. So I think that's
so they're like nice. Chaos orbs.
Yeah.
For the chaos rips rather for the chaos.
Exactly. Yeah. And the totems themselves do damage, so that's kind of nice. Warrior Tyrant. I love the chains. I think that's so satisfying. I'm not a big fan of the warrior, but you know the chains are always fun. The Paladin Justice Judgment. I actually like the hammers. I think that was. It was a fun thing to play. I don't know, especially when you're hiding around a corner, you just pop that and then the enemies will just come get demolished. I actually forgot what the passive is, so I'm going to skip over that.
The Lawbringer? I don't remember what that is either, to be honest with you.
Remember.
We're old, you know.
So the Warlock Souls, that is so good for farming. The vortex that goes around you is really fun, and I love the passive because as long as you have essence, every time you hit or every time you attack, you don't even have to hit anything, but there's like these little homing missile winds that'll just hit enemies. And I think that is really cool, and it's a really fun class to play around with, but it's just not sustainable, I don't think, with bosses and things like that. It's just not strong enough for me. The Sorcerer Ice. So in the first Heroes of Hammerwatch, the Sorcerer had ice balls. That was one of its abilities, and it was so smooth and so seamless. For this one, it seems a little bit clunkier, and there's less projectiles that come out of you, which is so unfortunate. But I will say, in the magic shop, before you start a run, the fact that they can actually seek out new enemies, that they can actually become homing missiles, it's only a chance, which is so unfortunate. And the fact that the other upgrade is that they can explode, or all your ice powers can explode and things like that. Again, those are chances, and I hate that. I really hate that because I want to be a legit ice wizard, and I want to always be able to do ice spells. I don't want chances, which is why I have it like so low down the list, which stinks. Otherwise it'd be right up there with Immolation on B. But the Rogue Grenade, I'm not too fond of it. I would only pick this skill just because of the artificer. I can't pronounce that word either.
Artificer.
Artificer suit.
Artificer. Yeah.
The magic shop upgrade makes it so that the grenade can actually hit on impact, which I think is really terrible. I like the whole timing default one, but the Artificer suit is fine. I think I forget what it does actually.
It increases your armor. It increases your armor. I know that much.
Okay.
Like it gives you more armor.
Okay, so because rogues are like more like get in there, parry, evade, you know, I think that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
The Wizard Evocation, Meteor Shower is like you know, it's whatever to me. Wizard Transmutation. So I want to play around. I want to actually like this class because, like you said in your previous statement, that it actually increases your strength and your dexterity, right? Fine. So you can play it like that. Mm-hmm. However, in the magic shop, and if you take specific purple orb upgrades, your spell power increases by your strength amount. And another purple orb upgrade is your spell power increases by your dexterity amount. So you can have 3 stacks of spell power and your wizard can be absolutely insane with your base spells that you already have. Yeah. So I really want to try out
the transmutation just to play around with it a bit more. It's weird, but it sounds cool.
Yeah. Like even though it doesn't have a lot of actives or passive, like the active is what, like you get
it's
movement
haste,
speed,
haste.
Yeah.
You're just, and it's like you're using. See, your active becomes a spell that buffs everything else.
Yeah.
Whereas like we've got Spirit Wolves on the Beastmaster. They do things. Mm-hmm. They do things. Whereas your Wizard Transmutation active is an actual kind of like a passive that you activate. Like it's just haste. Yeah. It doesn't hurt anybody. It just makes you better.
Yeah, exactly. So it just like increases your base stuff that you already have.
Right.
Ranger Warden is, I need to play around with that because you said you really liked it, and I
liked it. Now, if the healing were better, this would be up there in A or S tier.
Oh wow.
I liked it. Let me tell you, in the last stage, right before the avatar with the orbs and the eyeballs that come at you.
Yeah.
I stood my ground with 3 portals of eyeballs.
Wow.
Normally my wolves would be dead and I'd be running and just kiting. My marksman would just be running because he can't do anything. Like my hand would be and then my warden, he sat there, put down the vines, and with the whirlwinds that shoot out as his passive from hitting something, he took down all 3 groups of eyeballs and none of them left the entangle.
So he was basically the divine paladin. I see.
He's amazing. Like for clearing and holding your ground and CC, he is amazing. Crowd control.
I might have to try him out.
I would recommend, but the problem is in a boss fight, the healing is insignificant. It's if the enemy's hitting you for 300 or whatever, or 200, your ticks of 12 are not going to matter. Yeah. It's just not going to matter.
I like the Windweaver, but I was so disappointed because the Windweaver it fires off in a cone. So if you hit something, it gives off wind as if like your enemy is farting or something.
Yeah, right.
And it's hitting like the ones behind them.
You're literally throwing gas at everybody, and you're making them like you're feeding them Taco Bell or something, and then
But like I think it's a cool idea because it actually doubles your range. Like because you're already the ranger and you're shooting them from afar, and then that wind is doubling that range, I guess, or something. But I'm just sad it goes in a straight line.
It takes out. Let me tell you, in the courts, you know those mages that zap you with those lightning.
Yeah.
When they summon those guys that come at you,
that's right.
You hit one of them, the whirlwind goes back and hits the mage, and I'm offhanding a crossbow which does pierce.
Okay.
So on top of my piercing crossbow and on top of the whirlwind, I can take out the mage just fine.
Okay. I always rock a heavy crossbow with the ranger, so maybe I'll have to switch up my gear too.
I take the sword for the parry.
Really?
Yeah, so just in case I need it. Okay. So I'll take an offhand crossbow and my main hand I'll put something with parry on it, just for more survivability.
All right. The Ranger Marksman I would only take for its passive. I really don't care for the Rain of Arrows. Although I will say, I played in a public lobby once, and I remember doing an NG1, and there was this little level 4, like, with me, who joined me, and she had the Rain of Arrows, and it was just so cute seeing the little pitty 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 pitty. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank you for the help. So that was cute. The Warrior Berserker, I really don't like. I don't care for the leap. You said I was versatile, so you put it up there, huh? On the tier list?
Well, when I was running with him, I was able to jump into a group and keep running. Like, in my opinion, he's good for XP scroll farming. You know how the Paladin in the first one, you could zoom around the desert with your Paladin?
Yep.
You can kind of do the same thing with the Warrior Berserker.
Okay.
You can leap, do damage, and keep moving. Leap, do damage, and keep moving. Leap, do damage, and keep moving.
Man, that's like infinite stashes if you equip him with that dagger, the double dagger where you can dash.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then the Rogue Blades, I want to like this. I'm going to try to like this. I want to take it for the passive skill. I don't care for the active, but I do want to try this for the passive skill, which I don't remember what it was, but I know I want to.
with Assassin, I think it was you aren't noticed. Enemies take longer to notice you or something like that.
Okay. All right.
You're more stealthy.
So maybe I can like NG farm it. NG farm that. Or not NG farm, just regular
XP farm and resource farm.
I wish we had it like side by side just to compare our things, but then you'd have to like rearrange.
Yeah. Keep in mind, well, this is mine. This was build one. This is post build 118.
Yeah.
And this is hers pre-build.
Yeah. Like as soon as I did this, the patch hit. So I was like, oh, I'm not doing it again. But I definitely want to experiment more because everything's subjective and everything is gear dependent. And
the developers are going to be changing things probably.
Yeah.
In their latest patch notes, they said some classes are overperforming and some are underperforming. They're aware of this. So this list is going to change. That's why I put the date in the upper right.
I will say I'm a little bit, compared to the first Heroes of Hammerwatch, it's a little disappointing only because there's so many passives. And I would have actually preferred more classes with less with less abilities, I guess, because this is a lot of button pressing for one class. And I think and you're not even going to fully do all the abilities, you know?
I spec'd out of the trap on my Ranger.
Yeah.
I'm not even using the trap.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing. I want to have classes that mean something, you know, and to have all their abilities mean something. So if you pick a class and you don't even use their ability, that to me is so sad because that's like, you know, a developer worked really hard
to make it balanced and everything.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're not even using it.
So like, I wish it's hard. It's like a blessing and a curse because you have the basic attack, and then you have the offhand, whatever special attack that is, and then you have your 1, 2, 3 abilities, and
then you have the active and the passives from the specializations.
Yeah, so it's a lot of button pressing, and it's a lot of non-focused kind of attacks, I guess. And that's kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, it's still a fun game, and I'll always recommend it because there's so many builds you can play around with.
Yeah, I like that the game gives you choice. So even though there are a lot of skills, and maybe not a lot, because World of Warcraft, there was a long time ago in Wrath of the Lich King, you had 3 rows of different buttons that you could hit. So this game comparatively is minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a fun game, and I'm still holding out for a priest class. I want a dedicated priest class, one that can heal, one that can have an aura of some kind to help out others. A dedicated support class would be awesome.
Yeah, or a dedicated necromancer.
That would be awesome too. And there you have it. Hopefully you found this enjoyable. This is Vincent Idley. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all next time. Take care.